So now we move to the women's. Yes, the women's 60-18 bracket. Like I said, this is the projected bracket. When the full bracket, the final bracket finally comes out, I will be talking about it. I will be doing the same thing for the men's bracket too, because I have to. It's March Madness, one of the best sporting events in sports, modern sports, should I say. It's the best. It just is. Crazy things happen in March. You never know who could win. So I will be talking about the men's and the women's March Madness brackets. And y'all let me know how y'all feel about it. Do y'all feel as though I made a good bracket? Do you feel as though this team is going to beat this team? Like, we're going to talk about it. But this is a projected bracket right now. This isn't the finalized one. So we're just going to go based off of the projected bracket right now. So, in Albany 1, we have South Carolina as the number 1 overall seed, followed by Ohio State as the number 2 seed. And then you have Michigan State and Kansas, Utah and Richmond, Virginia Tech and Fairfield, Louisville, Auburn, Oregon State, and California Baptist, North Carolina, Middle Tennessee, Ohio State, and Maine. And then South Carolina will either play UT Martin or Presbyterian. I honestly feel as though South Carolina will go all the way to the Final Four. I don't feel as though none of these girls' teams can beat them. And if Ohio State, who has been playing a very good season, who beat Iowa, I just feel as though South Carolina is just going to dominate. I just feel as though South Carolina is going to dominate. Now, Iowa and Albany 2 being the number 1 overall seed, they'll play Sacred Heart, Holy Cross. Then Florida State is the 8th seed, followed by Alabama as the 9th seed. Oklahoma, South Carolina State as the 5-12. Colorado and Eastern Michigan as the 4-13. Duke and Texas A&M or Vanderbilt, whoever one of those two teams will be the 11th seed. UConn and Stony Brook being the 3-14. Ole Miss and Miami being the 7-10. And UCLA and Temple being the 2-15. UCLA got a good team too. I didn't even talk about them in the Pac-12. They have a good team. So the Pac-12 is loaded. If Iowa cannot get their shit together and not just make Caitlin Clark be the only person that they have, Iowa's in trouble. I wouldn't even be surprised if Iowa loses to either Colorado or Oklahoma in the Sweet 16. Because Colorado can play and Oklahoma can play. I wouldn't even be surprised if they lose to UCLA or UConn in the Elite Eight. I just feel as though if Iowa makes Caitlin Clark their only person, they live by Caitlin Clark and they die by Caitlin Clark. If they let Caitlin Clark take them to where they need to go, they're not going to win a national championship. They need other guys, other girls to contribute to this team. They need other girls to contribute to the team. Because if not, I wouldn't be surprised if they lose come Sweet 16. I wouldn't be surprised. And then I wouldn't be surprised if they lose to in the Elite Eight. They get yes, they're the number 1 overall seed, but I feel like their draw in regards to the teams that they have, I wouldn't be surprised if they lose to Oklahoma, Colorado, UConn, or UCLA. I wouldn't be surprised. I would probably, if I'm not mistaken, I would probably has the second hardest, maybe even the hardest road to the national championship, because they have to go up against Colorado as that 4 seed. They have to go maybe against UConn in the Elite Eight or UCLA in the Elite Eight. They have to go, Florida State and Alabama. I feel as though they can beat those teams, but I just feel as though come Sweet 16 time, they may have some trouble. So, personally, I have South Carolina making it to the Final Four and Albany 1. And honestly, that's hard. I like UConn, but I wouldn't be surprised if UCLA makes it. because UCLA has to play Temple, then they play Ole Miss, who is a good team. I've seen them play Miami. I just I just don't believe that Iowa, if they ride with Caitlin Clark throughout the whole entire thing and she doesn't get a supporting cast, I honestly feel as though they're not gonna make it to the Final Four. I get that Caitlin Clark is an incredible talent, incredible on the offensive end, but UCLA has people on their team. Colorado has people on their team. UConn has people on their team. It isn't just Caitlin Clark. It just isn't. So with that being said, Caitlin Clark could get you at least past the Sweet 16. But the draw that they have with the Pac-12 teams of UCLA and UConn, and obviously the Big East team with, the biggest teams with UConn and the Pac-12 teams of Colorado and UCLA, I personally feel as though Iowa, if it's just Caitlin Clark, they're not going to reach it to the finals. They're not. But overall, if they do get help, maybe. But honestly, I think I got UCLA making it. UCLA or UConn making it. Colorado is that 4 seed, and I love them being that 4 seed. Playing Eastern Washington, and then they have to play Oklahoma or South Dakota State. I feel as though they can easily make it to the Sweet 16. I feel as though it's going to be Iowa versus Colorado in the Sweet 16. And if Caitlin Clark, if that's the only thing they got that day, or if Caitlin Clark isn't on, Colorado has a good chance of beating Iowa, and I feel as though Colorado can make it to the Elite Eight. That's how I feel about it. So, if it's just Caitlin Clark, if Caitlin Clark has great games, they're an Elite Eight automatically. But if it's just Caitlin Clark and she doesn't have a good game, I can see them getting knocked out by Colorado in the Sweet 16. Overall, I feel as though it's going to be UCLA and UConn in the Elite Eight. And I have UCLA beating UConn. I feel as though that's going to be a very good game. But I have UCLA at least making it to the Elite Eight versus UConn in. It's a toss-up. You could say UConn could win, but I personally feel as though UCLA is going to make it. I think Iowa's going to get knocked out by Colorado. I think they're going to get knocked out by Colorado. Let me know what y'all think about that. Then we're going to go to Portland 4, where we have USC. Since they beat Stanford, they lock up that number 1 seed, which I feel as though that is going to happen. They go up against Hawaii. Nebraska goes up against UNLV, Kansas State, and Drake. Gonzaga and Cleveland State. Gonzaga has a good girls team. Baylor and Marquette. NC State and Chattanooga. Tennessee and Michigan. And Texas and Norfolk State. Now, USC, I feel as though they have Elite 8 talent. They're going to obviously beat Hawaii. I don't feel as though USC is going to lose to Hawaii. And I feel as though USC can beat Nebraska or UNLV. Now, what's tricky is in the Sweet 16, I personally feel as though they're going to go up against Gonzaga in the Sweet 16. And that is going to be a very good game in my personal opinion. I feel as though that's going to be a good game. I've seen them play just a little bit, not too much, not a good sample size of them, but the clips that I did see, they look like a pretty good team. And I feel as though USC and Gonzaga, that could be a pretty good game. But I feel as though Elite 8, they can make it there. Texas always has the talent. They have a good team this year, even though Rory Harmon is out. She suffered a season-ending knee injuries in December, so now she is out. But overall, I feel as though they still have a good team, and they can make it to Elite 8 now. Texas and Tennessee could actually be a really good matchup. For real, that could be a really good matchup. I wouldn't be surprised if I see Texas and Tennessee in the round of 32. And that could be a good matchup. That could be a toss-up. But I have Texas making it past them. I have Baylor and... Ooh, that's... Baylor and Marquette, that may be something. It could be Marquette. I think it may be Marquette and NC State. But overall, I feel as though USC is probably going to make it to the Final Four. It's really, if Gonzaga can't beat USC, I feel as though USC is gonna make it. I do. I feel as though they're gonna make it to the Final Four. Now in Portland 3, we have Stanford versus Lamar. Stanford is the number 1 overall seed. You have Iowa State and Princeton, Syracuse and Florida Gulf Coast has the 5-12 matchup. Indiana versus Toledo with the 4-12 matchup. West Virginia and the winner out of Arizona and Mississippi State in the play-in. That's going to be the 11th seed for that region. Notre Dame at 3, which is very good. Notre Dame got a great team. Not as good as previous years, but they are a good team, should I say. Not a great team. Versus Marshall, the 14th seed. Creighton and Maryland. LSU and Jackson State. LSU, I feel as though, that's going to be tough. If LSU could get Notre Dame in the Sweet 16. That is going to be tough. If LSU don't get their emotions together, I wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame makes it at that 3 seed to the Elite 8. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think Stanford... I feel as though Stanford going to make it to the... They're going to make it to the Sweet 16 easily. That ain't even a question. They'll make it to the Sweet 16 for sure. But... that Elite 8 matchup versus LSU and Stanford, or LSU and Notre Dame, that is going to be a tough one for Stanford. Even though Stanford has a good team this year. Stanford versus LSU, if LSU can get their emotions together, they can make it. They can win back-to-back. If they can get their emotions together, I have LSU win it. But if they can't, I have Stanford. But I think I'm going to have LSU make it out. So, I have South Carolina, I have USC, I have UCLA or UConn, and then I have LSU. So, I'm gonna probably say, dang, do I want to say UConn or LSU, UCLA? That's a tough one. I think I'm gonna say UConn. I think I'm gonna say UConn beating UCLA. So, LSU versus UConn and South Carolina versus USC. That'll be fire. That'll be fire if it's South Carolina and USC and UConn and LSU. That will be a fire Final Four. That's hard. That is hard. USC could beat South Carolina. I'm not even going to lie to you. USC could beat South Carolina. Do I want to go with the undefeated is going to stay undefeated, or do I feel as though South Carolina is going to win it? I think I'm going to have to come back to that. UConn and LSU, I personally feel as though, like I said, if they don't stay disciplined and they let their emotions get to them, I feel as though personally with the roster that they have right now, UConn, I feel as though they're not as talented as LSU. But they can remain disciplined. I know that they can remain disciplined with Gino being their coach. I know that they can remain disciplined. And that could be the determining factor. Angel Reese being in foul trouble, that can be the determining factor. Angel Reese and Flau'jae Johnson, those are the X factors in that game. We all know with UConn, the X factor is Paige Beckers. If Paige Beckers isn't on, then they could lose this game for sure. So, that's hard. That is hard. I think I have LSU, and I honestly have USC getting knocked off. No, I have USC winning. I take that back. USC can beat South Carolina. And I feel as though it's going to be USC and LSU. And I feel as though USC can win. USC can win. That's hard. I wouldn't be surprised if South Carolina wins. I wouldn't be surprised if USC wins. I wouldn't be surprised. Those are the 4 teams that I have. Those are the 4 teams. Whoever comes out of that, that's just a complete toss-up. Complete toss-up. It's hard to go undefeated and win. It's hard. So it's like I don't want to go with that, but they're a good enough team to do it. But I feel as though USC can beat South Carolina. I just do. I think I got USC winning it. USC could win it. They can get hot and win it. I think that's who I'm going to take. But I wouldn't be surprised. Whoever wins that game between South Carolina and USC will win it all. Guarantee you. So that's who I got. Let me know who y'all think. That'll be a fun Final Four to look at with USC, LSU, UConn, and South Carolina. That would be fire. Let me know what y'all think.